There have been times in my life that I've had to recognize that God is truly in control. I've had to recognize that in a very unique way, in a very much deeper way than simply saying, hey, he's in control. I remember one time, particularly when this was happening, I was in Colombia. At that point, I was leading a church. It was the last 3 years that we were in Colombia. The church plant that we had started had been in existence for about 7 or 8 years. And it had grown. It had grown very, very quickly. We now had around 150 people coming. And the people who were coming were middle and upper class, which was kind of unusual for a church at that point in time. The church was favored by the more vulnerable, the less privileged people. But as we began to share with middle and upper class, they too were coming to the Lord. And we were looking for a place that we could call our own. We had been renting a facility that was called the Casa del Millón, the $1 million house. Because when it was built, it cost close to $1 million, or I don't know what it actually cost, but people said, oh, it's so big, it's so beautiful, it must be $1 million. We were renting that facility, but we wanted our own facility. We found a spot, but it was well beyond our capability. And I can remember stewing over that as pastor. How can we do this? I'd pretty much made up my mind that no, I've just got to tell the church board that I don't think we can do this. We need to keep looking. It was a very difficult time for me. There were struggles from outside. This was during the violent period in the early 90s in Colombia. There were financial pressures. I was also leading the mission. Not everything was going like I thought it should go. And just so many different things seemed to attack from all sides. I was feeling pretty down. I remember getting up one morning. I had to go to see the lawyer downtown. We lived about 10 blocks from downtown. It was about a mile. So I decided to walk. And as I began to walk, I didn't get too far from our apartment. I was crossing the bridge over the Medellin River. And I just stopped and I looked out over the river. And it seemed to me that God was saying, not in an audible voice, but in a way that I knew it was God, it's not your church. It's not your mission. It's mine. Give it to me. And I did. I had a little revival service right there. So in these days, I've had something of a similar, very different. It hasn't been as time-oriented as that was. I could take you today to within 10 yards of where I stood, and I can repeat, just as I have, what I heard God saying to me. These days, they've been difficult. They've been difficult. We've seen attendance in person at church drop and dwindle. And I understand. I'm not saying this. I certainly don't want anyone to feel bad because they haven't been coming. Because many of us can't come. We don't dare come. We expose ourselves to too much danger. And yet looking out over a crowd of 25 to 30, even 40 over the last 3 weeks, that's difficult. Had struggles at home for different reasons, certainly not with Linda. We've been great. I've had personal struggles, just dealing with the loss of friends, some lost due to COVID, some lost because we become aware of people who have left the church and gone to other churches. That's a loss. Those are people that I've been friends with that now I just don't know where that friendship is. So over the past several days, I've had a running conversation with the Lord. Why? Why? And I heard those words again. It's not your church. It's really not even your family. They're mine. Give them to me. You know, 25 years ago, I gave the church to God in a bridge over the Medellin River. I've given New Hope Church back to God. He never lost it. He was always in control. I just had to recognize that. I don't know what you are going through today, but you may need a similar conversation with the Lord. What is it that you're losing? Give it to him. It's his anyway. When you get in a state like this, I've found helpful several things. I've got to make sure that I'm taking care of my body. And for me, that means healthy eating, not snack foods, which addictive behaviors can crop up during this time. And for me, it's potato chips. And I just got to make sure that I don't buy them. Make sure you get enough sleep. For me, that means going to bed early. I will wake up early as well, and the minute I wake up, my mind starts running. Maybe yours does too. Make sure you're getting enough exercise. I need to work more on that. Second thing you need to do is care for your mind. Be careful where you spend your time in this state. Addictive behaviors can crop up. Don't be addicted to social media. Find people. Have conversations with people. A third, care for your soul. Make sure you're spending time in prayer and Bible study. The book of Job is a very interesting book. I believe the central message of the book of Job is Job was fine up until the point that there was 7 days of silence. His friends came and they sat with him. They didn't say a word. That wasn't the problem. Job stopped hearing from God. Every single speech of Job in the book of Job includes a plea to God. Talk to me. Confront me. Let me argue with you. Tell me something. Everything returns to normal for Job, not after his friends speak, but after God speaks. In fact, chapter 42, Job says, "Before I had heard about you, now my eyes have seen you, my ears have heard you, and so I repent." And everything from that point on was good with Job and God. What was the difference in Job's life? He never stopped talking to God. When you're feeling down, make sure that you're spending time in His Word and spending time in prayer. Lastly, listen for God. I don't know how He speaks to you. I tend to discover as I talk to people that He speaks to people in different ways. The prophet Elijah stood at the mouth of the cave that he was in, desperately wanting God to speak. A thunderstorm came by. God had spoken in thunderstorms before. God wasn't there. An earthquake came by. God had spoken through earthquakes in the past. God wasn't there. A great wind came by. God had spoken in great winds in the past. But God wasn't there. And then a still, small voice. A new way. But Elijah heard him. I don't know how you hear God. I do know you need to listen. Care for your body. Care for your mind. Care for your soul. Listen. I'm praying for you in these days. Things will get better. We just have to be faithful.